How does Norv Turner's hiring in Carolina affect Christian McCaffrey and Gregg Olson? What can we expect from the Bears with Matt Nagy running things? And who is our early pick for the first receiver off the board in 2018? Plus, the 2017 FFPC $250,000 main event champion Greg Zwickel joins us to discuss leading the contest for the entire championship round, what tough decisions he faced along the way, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
Thank you so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Gerzak addicts. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I am, of course, your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is indeed the patron saint of fantasy football. You know him as the Dizzle. We know him as Dave Gerzak. Coming up on tonight's show, should you be looking to deal Le'Veon Bell in Dynasty Leagues, what our early thoughts are on Darius Geis and the $250,000 main event champ from the FFPC, Greg Zwickel, dishes on building his juggernaut, how he made do with losing a starter for the year early in the season, and more. Yes?
Is that really how you say his name?
Zwickel or Bell? Or Geis?
Yes, the last.
Darius Geis?
Did you say Geis with a hard G?
Yeah, Geis. Was it pronounced some
I thought you said like Yice or some crap.
Darius Yice?
Yice? White?
I thought I said Geis.
German version.
I thought I said Geis. I'm sorry.
Right.
If I
it's
said
a hard
Yice.
G? Yice?
Yes, it's Geis.
All right,
if I said Yice, I apologize.
Keep going. I apologize.
I don't believe it is pronounced Yice. I apologize to my holy Yod in heaven for that mispronunciation. Good one. Shout out to the chat room right now. Feel free to post any questions you might have in there. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, we are at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman, and Dave is at David Gerzak. Facebook.com/HSFF Hour is where you can find us there. If you want to chime in and give us a call tonight, please do it 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA. You can also email the show at the inbox at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Our producer, mutual friend Rob, and audio engineer Bryce will get those questions to us later on in the fantasy feedback segment in the show. Second half of the show is when we'll do that. Just to remind everybody, if you are looking at getting into the dynasty space and playing a few dynasty teams this year, we're happy to offer 175 dynasty leagues that are full right now, except for the orphans, which are probably, I don't know, there's like 3 or 4 dozen left. We will not be opening any more maiden drafts or new dynasty leagues until those are filled. You can go to myffpc.com/dynasty for sale right now, and there's a list of all the players and picks for all the teams that are up for sale. If you've been checking it over the last few days, there's actually a little new sticker next to the ones that have just been added. You can click a button right on there, make an offer to Dave Gerzak, make an offer for the team, and jump in and play some Dynasty Fantasy Football. Check that out at myffpc.com/dynasty for sale. Let's bring in tonight's guest right away. I feel like I've talked your ear off long enough. He and his brother have been playing fantasy football for more than 25 years, 10 of those being in the high-stakes space. Their nearly 3-decade love of football and their strategic fantasy partnership has finally led them to the top of the mountain. But the fact that they did it as a team made it such an incredible experience for them. Please welcome one half of the duo that won the $250,000 grand prize in the 2017 FFPC main event, Mr. Greg Zwickel. Congrats and thanks for joining us, champ.
Thanks so much, Eric, and thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Very excited to have you on. You know, we wanted to have David on tonight too. It didn't work out, but right at the top, talk a little bit about why this was so awesome to win this $250,000 with him. Because to do that with your brother, it's obviously special. Why was it so special for you guys?
Well, we've done fantasy football for over 3 decades together locally, and then venturing into the high stakes world, and all of our discussions and all of our analysis, and just having fun doing it together for so long, to finally get the chance to win it all was just super special.
Yeah, we're going to get into that for sure and talk about what you guys did over those last 3 weeks, over what you did week 16, really, when the cash was awarded. Before we get to that, tell us what you do for a living, Gregg.
Oh, sure. I'm an elementary school teacher. I teach 4th grade, 9 and 10-year-olds.
This is so great. Another one after, Gregg, my wife is a teacher. So anytime a teacher we get on the show that's crushing fantasy, first of all, I feel a little bit upset that my wife isn't crushing fantasy football. Because apparently this is it's a hotbed. It used to be we get a lot of lawyers and CPAs and, a doctor here and there on the show. This has been the last 2 years, I think, on the show has been the year of the teacher. Well, the years of the teacher. Yeah. Because it's been 2 years. We've had a lot of teachers on. Awesome that we've had such a successful run. Gregg, I usually ask this. They're 9 and 10-year-old kids, but did they know what was going on? Did you talk to them about fantasy football at all in class and say, hey, this is who you guys should root for this weekend if you're watching the NFL, because Mr. Zwickel really needs a big weekend from this guy?
I don't think I did, unless something slipped out once or twice, but I use football in some of my lessons, and definitely some of my coworkers, my friends, were following along and cheering as we got closer to the finish line. But I pretty much kept the kids out of it for the most part.
Now, Gregg, one thing for sure you have to do, and your brother as well, is anytime people in any of your local leagues address you from now on for the next 365 days, is they are to only call you as champ, or the champ, or sir, or champ, anything that's respectful that is due to you and your brother.
That sounds great to me.
So make sure they're aware of that. Even though you may have taken 9th or 10th in your local league.
Doesn't matter.
It's okay.
Doesn't matter,
If you make the playoffs, it's fine. So anyway, let's talk about your team. Congrats on the title. You guys took the lead in the championship round right away in Week 14. So it was a little bit, it was different than some people who come back from way far down. So tell us about how those last few weeks are when you're in the lead and everybody's looking up at you guys trying to chase you down.
It was unbelievable. We put ourselves in position before to be in the championship round, and then you have that first week where it's, you have a mediocre week and you're trying to chase people down, but, it's a long shot. This one was different because that first week when our team exploded, I think we ended up with 226 points, even after Kamara got hurt in that first Thursday night game. Our team just exploded, and right after that we thought, maybe we had a shot this year. So then watching the games and the live scoring and trying to see who's behind you and cheering everything on was a completely different experience. Our discussions during the week, as we always talk, were pretty much our usual ones. We've done it for so long together. But that last week in particular, making the decisions and then watching the game throughout the whole weekend, was just crazy. It was wild, especially when we got down to that last day and that last game, cheering on Hopkins and Le'Veon, and then finally trying to hold off the team with Ertz and the team with Crabtree that we knew were pretty much the only 2 teams that could catch us. So it was just wild.
Well, that's right. So that was bulky. I was watching at the very end. So Ertz had that. Just correct me if I'm wrong, Gregg. So Ertz had that monster first half, right? And so then if he had scored similarly in the second half to the first half, you guys would have lost. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had about a 33-point lead, I think it was, over Ertz, and then the lead over Crabtree was about 31. So the first half went pretty well until the last maybe 3 minutes, and then it was a pass to Ertz, a pass to Ertz, a pass to Ertz, and he actually was open in the end zone, and Foles missed him on a throw. And he finished out the half. Our lead was about cut in half. So we just watched the whole second half. We're watching. I don't think I've ever watched a half of football that way before. Just cheering against Ertz, and and then at the end, hoping that game didn't go into overtime.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
No kidding. Absolutely. The Gregg and David Zwickel, by the way, the main event champs. 226 in Week 14, a 171 in Week 15, and a 172 in Week 16. For anybody's asking, hey, what's it take? What do you need to put up? That's a healthy suggestion.
The thing is, though, that is doable.
You
know what I mean? If you have a monster week, you kind of need 3 190s or whatever. But if you have one massive week, then the 170s are very good scores, but not impossible.
Absolutely. Gregg, I don't know how close you and your brother live in proximity to each other, but what do you remember about, basically that last quarter? What were you doing to spend your time watching that final 15 minutes of that Eagles game?
We spent the whole day. I came home and we weren't we couldn't watch the games together because we were a little bit far away, and it was a holiday. It was Christmas Day, but we were texting literally every play from the Steeler-Texan game and then finally to the Eagle-Raider game. We probably had a texting thread that was so long and just hanging on every play and watching the clock tick and just watching every second until the end and just hoping Elliott would make that kick with 20 seconds left to not send that game into overtime. So we were basically together watching it through text, believe it or not, the whole entire day.
That's awesome.
And to a much lesser scale, Dave, we were watching this because rooting for our good buddy Kurt in the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, who had the lead. And
he won $7,500.
Yeah, it was an amazing.
Yeah. He's retiring.
Yeah.
He just retired.
He did. But the interesting thing was what were we rooting against?
He was rooting against.
It was Ertz and.
It was two. It was against Jeffrey and Aguilar.
Jeffrey and Aguilar.
He scored less than 11 points, which is like almost implausible.
Right.
And there was this one pass where it bounced, it deflected between Jeffrey and Aguilar in the end zone. They both dropped it.
And I think the way I want to tie this in, Gregg, is because we were obviously rooting for okay, let's get this game over with. But at the same point, you were like, okay, well, somebody's got to score here. We don't want it going to overtime.
Right.
And this was the game that nobody wanted to win. There were so many turnovers and punts in that last fourth quarter. It was just insane. Just the momentum swings. And I think, be honest with you, I was not feeling great about Elliott hitting that field goal either. I was very, very nervous about it.
Plus, Chad Schrader was in second place in Kentucky.
Right.
So I was actually rooting for him instead of him.
He doesn't know.
Chad's a good customer of ours.
Yeah, by the way,
Kurt's not that good of a customer by comparison.
Chad still doesn't know how close he was.
He knows.
He was paying attention. That's true. He was in the live chat.
Farrell told me that he was a little disappointed.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
I know. By the way, we're still interviewing Gregg Zwickel here.
Yeah.
Instead of our personal crappy assholes.
Yeah. Well, let's move back to Gregg here and talk to the FFPC main event champion from 2017, $250,000 winner. You guys lose Tyler Eifert early on in the season, Gregg. You patched it up nicely. Jared Cook was a late-round pick for you. You ended the season also with Jesse James and Ben Watson on your roster. But how difficult was it trying to start that correct tight end each season when you're picking from, at least two of those guys, and in some cases all three?
Most weeks it wasn't tough because we were a little bit higher on Cook than most people, I think, and Watson wasn't too much of an option, so I think maybe we used Watson once during the season, but we were pretty much going with Cook every week on this team. Where it became tough was that last week where we picked up Jesse James right before the championship round to try to give ourselves another option at tight end because we knew we were a little bit weaker there. And that last week, we were pretty down on Cook. Didn't love Jesse James because we knew Vance McDonald was coming back, and actually made a pretty tough decision after we discussed it all week to go with Watson in that first game against the Colts. We liked the matchup and just thought he was a better shot to have a better week, and it actually ended up working. But most weeks Cook was our guy. We just went away from him that last week in the championship.
That's awesome. Do you remember what Watson scored? I'm sure you do.
Watson scored, I think, between 12 and 13 points, and Cook and Jesse James each caught one ball maybe, or they had maybe two or 3 points. So it was actually we talked about it a lot during the week, and we ended up going with Watson. And like I said, I think we went with him maybe once during the season.
Yeah. You would have still won, actually, but it would have been like a 2 or 3 point or 4 point thing, and you would have had a totally crappy tight end performance. Yeah. You're in a tight end premium league, beating a team that had Ertz scoring like whatever 20 or whatever they scored, or whatever he scored.
Right. Yeah, it was it was a good decision at the end, but it was one of our big tough things we were thinking about a lot during the week.
Watson ended up tallying 11.5 in that Week 16 game. Obviously, Bell and Gurley were the heavy lifters for you guys. But, I mean, Alvin Kamara only got 16 points for you guys. So, guys like Jameson Crowder, DeAndre Hopkins had a big game too. So, I mean, everybody, not only just Week 16 for you, Greg, but everybody really came together.
Crowder came in really well like that last half of the year, Greg. Isn't that correct? Crowder was kind of a semi-bust early, but he really came back to that WR2 type status at the end of the year.
Yeah, Crowder came on. We weren't playing him as much toward the end of the year just because we had Devontae Adams and Burkhead in those two spots, and Crowder was kind of like our insurance. But we finally had to go to Crowder that last week, and that was actually a tough decision also because he had a hamstring injury and he was going against Chris Harris for Denver. So we didn't really love the matchup, but he ended up being better than the options we had. So that last week we were trying to figure out those two spots because Burkhead and Adams went down the week before in Week 15. So
right.
we also lost Deshaun Jackson and Hogan, who were our other reserves. So we were trying. We had a pick between Mike Davis, Crowder, and Galladay, and the three tight ends. We had a pick from those guys. So we ended up going Crowder and Watson with Galladay. And if we hadn't done that combination, especially Crowder and Watson, I think we would have lost it.
Wow. That's a great decision. I mean, it's really fantastic how those things work out. One bad decision, and boom, you lose it. And second place is nice, but we don't want to talk about the drop-off here. Yeah. We're talking positive things about the FFPC. Yeah. So here, Greg, let's talk about the strategy going all the way back to the draft. What strategy did you implement? You guys were drafting from the 2 spot. What were you guys thinking out of the 2 spot?
It was nice to get an early pick. I think that was in our main events. That was the only one we had an early pick, and we had Le'Veon as number 1 overall. So we were hoping that Johnson would go number 1, which he was doing in most drafts from what I saw, and we'd land Le'Veon. So our plan was to hopefully get Le'Veon, and then after that, pretty much take best available. I think we had Gurley and Hopkins a little bit higher than most, so we were really happy to get them where we did in the end, toward the end of the second and the beginning of the third, and then landing Adams in the 4th. As usual, we were happy with our draft, and that was kind of what we were thinking.
All right, so let's hypothetical here. So would you be talking to us right now if the person in front of you had drafted Kareem Hunt at the 1 pick? Would you have taken David Johnson or taken Bell?
We had Bell number 1 overall, so we would have definitely taken Bell. We had, actually, we liked Le'Veon coming into the year. I know he was holding out a little bit there, but I thought the Steelers would just use him because figuring it might be his last year there. And on that offense, we thought Le'Veon just had a good chance to just rack up the stats and touchdowns and catches and yards a little bit more than Johnson did on that offense.
Can I go on a little aside?
Go ahead. Yeah.
What the hell is with the Steelers? I mean, like, they have Le'Veon Bell. Yeah. They consistently don't want to pay him.
All right.
And now Bell's out there on Twitter saying, you got to pay me, Why don't they just pay this guy? He's a premier running back. Everyone's going to draft Saquon Barkley like he's this top 5 running back overall, and they're going to have to pay him big money. And now Bell's going to be out. They're not good decision making.
I'm gonna stop you there, and I'm going to go ahead and retract my approval to you going off on a side because we're going to get to that later on in the show.
All right, great.
We have an email about that.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. But one thing I wanted to say, proven players coming off bad years, that we talked about this, I think, with Bryce the other day. Proven players coming off bad years, draft them. Todd Gurley, boom, fantasy goal. DeAndre Hopkins, draft him, boom, fantasy goal. Gregg and David Zwickel, Gurley and Hopkins, $250,000.
There you go.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell and Alvin Kamara helped, sure, but still.
Kind of like stocks.
Kind of like stocks, indeed.
You ever saw Caddyshack? Al Sherrick would tell you.
Yeah, he would.
When they're all selling, then you buy.
That's right. Gregg, we kind of touched on, or you kind of touched on it earlier about the decisions that you had to make in Week 16. But if you look back in the championship round, or maybe I don't know how important they were, throughout the regular season, because you guys had obviously had a very, very, really good regular season as well. But were there any lineup decisions in that, Week 14, Week 15 that gave you fits that really you guys didn't know where to turn to? I know Devontae Adams, when he went down, that certainly had to hurt you guys. What were you thinking those first couple weeks of the championship round?
The first 2 weeks, we pretty much went with our set lineup. I guess our decision was Burkhead or Crowder, and we went with Burkhead. Week 16 was where we really had to make our decisions, and we were, we had to decide the ones we said before. The regular season, once we got midway through the year, it was looking like we were going to at least be in the championship. So, we made a few decisions here and there, trying to look ahead a little bit at what might come. But our big decisions by far were that last week when our two guys went down in Week 15, and then we were losing our reserves to put in for those guys. And we just had our usual discussions and talked about it and tried to figure out what we thought would give us the best shot.
That's pretty good stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about next year's draft.
Right.
I'm going to release my new theory here.
Okay.
You guys have heard of the zero RB theory and all this stuff.
I have.
I'm coming out with this. It's a brand new theory. It's called the RBWR theory.
Okay.
Where you take a running back in the first round.
Okay.
And then in the second round, because everybody else took a running back in the first round, you take a wide receiver.
I'm with you.
That's it.
Oh, the strategy ends after
round
2. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's just do whatever after.
Then after that, you would kind of adjust it and then draft how you want to.
it.
That's my theory. So everyone else, you're welcome.
It's a pretty flexible theory.
Sure. Yeah. That's part of it. So this is the question. So it's early. So what are your thoughts about the possibility of 9 or even 10 running backs being taken in the first round next year to abide with my new theory? And subsequently, all the good receivers are going to go in the second round.
It's definitely very early now, but I think I could see why that could happen. I mean, there's going to be a huge drop-off once you get past those top guys, and people are going to want to grab one of them before they're gone. So 9 or 10 seems like a lot, but I could see where there could be a huge number of these PPR running backs that people want to grab early and don't want to miss out on having at least one of them. So I could see it as a possibility of kind of going back old school, where the first round is heavily filled with running backs.
Just to interject here, breaking Blake Harrington news, Dave. I just got an email. Freaks of the industry.
By the way, Blake Harrington is our wonderful
it's our
local dynasty league that I have a dominant team in, but somehow took second yet again in this league.
2 actually Freaks of the Industry who won it this year, and he just put Kai Forbath on the trade block. So just letting you know.
Wow, I have a 4th round pick that might be looking for a home.
Forbath could be yours. We'll see if he can get through this weekend unscathed. Gregg Zwickel is our guest tonight on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. He and his brother David win the $250,000 grand prize in the FFPC main event title. And for anybody, Gregg, who is asking how you win an overall main event title, you can actually speak to that because you have the experience of doing so now. Outside of being a little lucky, what's the most important thing that a high-stakes player needs to do to at least get that team of his or hers up near the top of the leaderboard to compete for that 6-figure grand prize?
Well, I'll say a couple things. I think the first thing is give yourself a shot as many times as possible. Get into the tournament. We've gotten in over the years, and it hasn't worked out. But, you give yourself a shot enough times, and maybe you land a team that has, a core like we did this year of Le'Veon, Gurley, Hopkins, Kamara, and Adams. And then you hope you make the right decisions and get a little lucky when the opportunity comes. But also, I think when you have a team that's strong and you kind of get the feeling that it's going to be in the tournament, you can start looking a little bit earlier at matchups you might want, even defensive matchups, or what kicker you might want to try to lean on for those 3 weeks. Sometimes if you have a team that's doing really well, you start a little bit ahead of the pack, and week 9, week 10, start looking ahead at the possibilities And sometimes that could be the difference in getting a little lucky and making the right moves and winning it all.
We have a couple of emails here for you, Greg, tonight from some listeners. First one is from Craig in Mira Loma, California. You ever been to Mira Loma, Dave? Mira Loma, Cali?
No, I've not been to Mira Loma.
I don't know where that is. I'm guessing that's SoCal.
Sounds like it. The Miramar, I think that was where Tom Cruise was flying those F-16s in Top Gun.
Well, you learn something new every week on the High Stakes.
After the Scientology meeting, he cruised out over there.
Yeah, that's the process. Craig writes, do you see the Giants making a big splash and taking a running back at the 2 pick or early in the 2nd round? Or is it going to be the Darkwa Gallman Vereen show again in 2018? Congrats on the main event title. That is Craig in Mira Loma, California. I don't know. He may or may not know Tom Cruise. I will email him back and find out. But as far as the Giants running back situation goes, Greg, do you have a feel on what you think they might do in the first 2 rounds, or maybe they address it later? What are your thoughts on that?
I'd be surprised if the Giants used a very early pick on the running back spot. I wouldn't be surprised if someone came over in free agency, or they used a little bit of a later pick. But with what they have on the O-line and trying to look for a quarterback for the future, I think the Giants, they need blocking and they need a signal caller for the future. So I would assume they'll address it in some way. A 4th round pick maybe, or someone coming over a little bit in free agency. But I'd be surprised if the Giants used a early pick at that spot.
Oh, the next Paul Perkins might be on the roster soon.
I need to know who it is so I can draft him. When
Bulky can hype him up.
When Meyer and I are in the same Kentucky league, I need to be able to draft the 2018 version of Paul Perkins.
Who's the new Giants guy with the crappy metrics?
Yeah.
Let me grab him.
Yeah, it's that everybody's talking about. Maybe he's got a shot. Actually, Perkins wasn't a rookie this year, was he?
No, last year.
Right, yeah.
He was crappy last year.
Right, so I need somebody who was crappy this year.
And then he had one good game or 2 good games. Everybody's like, Perkins, he's going to lead the team.
All right, I got to do my research on this and find out who that crappy mid-round running back is. Rich in Lexington, Kentucky writes, setting aside the $250,000 you just won for a second, what's your favorite format to play for high stakes, the main event, Terminator, best balls, or something else? Thank you, Rich in Lexington, Kentucky. So obviously, the main event might be a little bit more of your favorite right now, given that you just won a 6-figure grand prize, Greg. But when it comes down to it, what's your favorite format to play?
Right now, I'll definitely say the main event, but overall, I think I like the Terminator leagues. I just find them to be, fun. You're looking at dropping a player each week, and the strategy behind that. Plus, it's a best ball league, so you don't have to make the lineup decisions every week. So I think I find the Terminator actually that to be the most enjoyable. But right now, it's hard for me to go away from that main event.
Dave, let's ask the Gerzak question.
What's that?
It's the new version.
I have 2 of them in a row now?
No. You have the second.
Oh, you get the cool one?
Well, fine. You can take the last one. That's fine. I'll sit this one out. I'm tagging you in. I'm tagging you in for the rest of the year.
Great. All right. Looking ahead next year, who's the guy who'll be staying away from the first couple rounds and a player that you think will be flying under the radar in 2018?
I'd say everyone has a value at some point, but I'm guessing we'll be lower on McCoy than most people at this point. Obviously, it depends on what happens there in Buffalo, bringing in a new quarterback. But they have a bit of a tough time scoring, and I think I'd rather be 1 year early than late on McCoy. I think he'll be turning 30 this year, and he's had a lot of tread on his tires from Philly and Buffalo. So I'd say I'm guessing we won't be having too much shares in McCoy next year at this point. Also, Murray, I assume people will be a little bit lower on him, especially with what Henry just did and the buzz around him. But I'd be surprised if we have too much of Murray also.
All right, and the under the radar fella.
I like to go with the guys that had a good rapport with the quarterback, and then the quarterback got hurt, and the stats don't look as good at the end of the year. So I'll say maybe Aguilar, Carson Wentz coming back, or maybe a Will Fuller. with Deshaun Watson coming back. They had great rapport, and at the end, maybe their stats won't look as good as it might have if this quarterback stayed healthy. So those kind of guys, the guys that I keep an extra eye on, and I'm sure I'll be interested in.
Yeah, Aguilar is a good point, actually. He really looks so not good as a rookie, and then he really showed a lot of good flashes last year. Like I could really see something coming from him. What do you think, Paul?
We haven't done our receivers in review segment yet.
Yeah.
That'll be coming up in the next few weeks. But I did briefly look at it, and I thought Aguilar was like a fringe top 20 overall receiver.
Really?
Wow. I remember I was like looking at him like, wow, I really missed the boat on Aguilar this year.
So you might be one of those players where if you owned him, you didn't get you didn't yield the start, the quality starts because you had him benched when he went off, type of thing, because he merged and then he's benching and starting and crappy games.
I remember him crushing it those first few weeks of the season,
right.
where I just thought it was an aberration. And you don't buy into it. You don't cut him, but when are you playing him until the bye weeks? You know what I mean? And that's kind of that's the type of season he had.
Well, Greg, speaking of buying stuff, $250,000. What are you and your brother buying? We got Benzes, we got some Aston Martins as options. Teslas are nice too.
The Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, if your house has a lower mortgage, you could pay that off with the HELOC, whatever. What are you doing with that money?
Well, I'd like to try to help the kids with saving some for college. So that's a start. I'd like to try to help with that. And then my wife and I would like to, get a few things around the house here that we've kind of been holding off on. I'd like a new pair of brown shoes. A few things. A few things we've been being careful about, and I think we can go get that now.
Nice. You know what? I know you live in New York. We have a connection with a Cornell professor that he's going to write. If your kids get good enough ACT and SAT scores, he'll write you a real nice letter of recommendation. All you have to do is just volunteer in his ant and insect lab for an entire couple, not you, of course, your child,
right,
for 2 or 3 summers, and maybe he'll write you a good letter.
And then it's all about the getting that Ivy League recommendation. Well, listen, Greg, I got to tell you, this has been a pleasure talking to you tonight. We learned a lot. I want to congratulate you once again on your big $250,000 win. Obviously, give our congrats to David as well, as you guys definitely worked together very well this year in earning that. And the one request I would have, when you do buy those new brown shoes, feel free to take a picture of them and email it to us so we can put that up on the website as the first purchase of the $250,000. Yeah, brand new pair of brown shoes. That is fantastic. Listen, man, good luck in 2018. Good luck with all of your leagues. And this was a real treat, man. I really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thanks so much. Great to talk to you, and I'll be sure to send you that picture.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Greg Zwickel, ladies and
much.
gentlemen. Greg
was great.
Yeah, he's fantastic. $250,000 winner in the FFPC main event, along with his brother David. I don't know what it is tonight, but you and I are both.
I'm sorry, I have a little cough.
Yeah, I know, but I'm getting a throat tickle myself.
I have a smoker's cough.
You have a smoker's cough?
Yeah, I started smoking again.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Why?
I figure I'm getting old enough now that I probably don't get the cancer.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good for me because it'll help my metabolism.
Hey, I have a question for you. It will help your metabolism.
Newport Lights, actually. That's the brand for me.
I was watching back when I didn't have a ton of cable channels when I was like
poor
preteen, I want to say, right around there. No, because I still had like basic cable.
Okay. This is when your parents were making the cable decisions.
Right. Yeah.
And they were prudent and intelligent, unlike most people nowadays, where they spend $150 a month on cable and make $24,000 a year.
Totally ridiculous. So I was watching some sort of track and field qualifier for I don't know what it was. But there was a Swedish high jumper that I guess smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day to keep his weight down.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So and
but he was super lean, right?
Yeah, he's super lean. Yeah. I think he was from Norway, so he was like 6'5", 110 pounds.
Exactly. Could have been a jockey.
He might have been. Well, I mean, he's too proud to be a jockey. Yeah. He was close to being the horse, really.
Right. Yeah.
So,
sure.
But no, I was going to ask you this. I have. I'm in a private playoff contest.
Okay.
You can only play. You can.
So this is unlicensed,
Obviously unlicensed. You can only play one player once throughout the playoffs.
All right.
Submit a starting lineup.
Great.
What quarterback would you play this week if you are still wanting to keep one in the holster for next week?
Okay, give me some options.
Just who's playing.
Oh, there's a lot of people playing.
Yeah, just First guy.
So you haven't played any of these players?
No, I played one quarterback last week. I'll tell you that who's eliminated. Alex Smith.
Okay, so
I cannot play him this week.
good choice actually.
Because he is not playing this week.
All right. Let's see. Sorry. Well, can we get back to it?
Yeah, hold on. Hey, okay. I'll just.
I want to give you a good analogy.
Well, there's a second part of this, so I don't want to. It's Brady, Mariota, Roethlisberger, Bortles, Foles, Ryan, Breeze, Keenum. Those are the 8. Okay.
Right. Keenum.
Case Keenum plays for the Vikings.
Right.
Quarterback.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I had to think for a second.
That's all right. It's late. I get it.
2, 3, 4, 5. I was writing them down.
Yeah.
All right.
So obviously I want to win this week because you have. Oh, that's the other stipulation. You have to beat.
So you have to start a quarterback every week, though, right?
Yeah. So and the thing is you play a different team and you don't know their lineup until the games start. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have to win this week. If you don't beat that team, you don't move on to the quote unquote championship game next week.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
I kind of like it.
So as far as quarterbacks go, I'm torn on 3 different guys right now. Okay. Should I just tell you who the 3 guys are?
You can if you'd like, but I'll tell you who I would say.
Who'd you start?
I'm going with Mariota actually.
Okay, you would say Mariota. Can I ask you why Mariota? He is not one of the 3 guys I'm considering, and perhaps the fact that you said Mariota, I feel like I am not explaining this correctly. Maybe I am. I don't know. Well, this is interesting. Wasp guy says Keenum. 2-Packer says Brady.
So, Keenum's interesting because then you could automatically start, Foles or Ryan in the other one.
Okay.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, no, what do you mean in the other one?
I mean, in the next week. If you wanted to.
Or I could play Brady next week.
Right. I just think, it's a 48-point over-under. The 13-point dogs. I grant you that. Yeah. So they're not supposed to score a lot. But Marcus he's going to be the centerpiece of the offense. I think he might actually get a rushing score.
I would say Henry would be.
Whatever. I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily agree with you. I think he's going to score a good amount of fantasy points. The Patriots' defense is really not that great.
Okay.
And I think they might keep it a little bit closer than normal, and I think he's going to put up good fantasy points.
In a vacuum, if I could not only play one of these players once throughout the playoffs, who is the top scoring quarterback this week?
I would take Brady.
Brady. Okay. Here's my other conundrum. Would you play Antonio Brown this week?
When do you have to pick?
Before the Saturday game, the afternoon game starts.
Is he? He's not.
He's a game time decision for Sunday.
No, I would not. Absolutely not. I would start Juju.
Okay.
If he was like a legitimate choice.
Okay.
I think a lot of these people in the playoff challenge, FFPC playoff challenge, may have burned some money because Brown may not play.
I said from the get-go, I thought Juju was the money guy this year for the Steelers.
I think our buddy Leroy, I don't know if he took Juju or Le'Veon Bell, but I don't think he took Brown.
I want to say he took Smith-Schuster.
Did he? Yeah.
We've been talking about Juju.
He was asking me about who to take. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Take whatever.
We've been talking about Smith-Schuster in our group chat so much, he was probably like, you know what, I think there's something to this, and he probably put him on his team because of that.
That's probably true, actually.
Jalen Ramsey going to shut Antonio Brown down, says 2-Packer as well. Okay, well, good stuff, and I will take that under advisement. I need to find another receiver because I had Brown in there earlier this week until this injury stuff came up.
What about that Julio Jones fella?
I used him last week. So I can't play him this week. So, yeah. Thanks to football guys, RotoPass, RotoWorld, and Rob. For tonight's rundown, Christian McCaffrey, 6 catches for 101 yards, including an amazing 56-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter of the NFC wildcard game against New Orleans this past Sunday. McCaffrey was the spearhead behind the Panthers' comeback as they tried to take out the Saints. A rookie running back was awesome this year. I feel like I read an article today, Dave, that 4 out of the top 10 running backs this year were rookies in PPR scoring.
Well,
can you name them? This shouldn't be that hard.
Let's see, Kareem Hunt, Fournette, obviously McCaffrey,
right.
We just mentioned.
And the guy who finished
PPR?
PPR. The guy who finished ahead of all of them. Hunt, Fournette, and McCaffrey. The guy who was in front of all of them.
So we had Dalvin Cook
he does,
but he got injured. But he points per game, he was actually pretty good.
No, not points per game. PPR, I'm sorry.
Oh, overall?
PPR, overall, yeah.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't points per game. I don't know, the other guy.
The guy who played against McCaffrey in that wild card game. Plays on the Saints.
Yeah, Kamara.
So McCaffrey, Dave. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's bring back this.
There's a pretty big drop off though, by the way, from the top like 6 or 7 running backs points per game to where McCaffrey is. He was RB8.
I thought he was 10, but okay.
But on points per game, maybe he was 10. But it was a significant drop off from like those top running backs, and McCaffrey was like averaging 14.863 points per game or something like that.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to touch back to McCaffrey in a little bit. Gregg Olson in that same game, Dave, 8 catches for 107 yards and a touchdown. He had 12 targets. Olson had that foot injury this season, obviously had the big game against Green Bay, has a massive game against New Orleans. The rumors of Gregg Olson's demise, exaggerated? Your thoughts?
I think they are, actually. I think he's actually, I'm looking at taking him next week. He'll be cheaper.
You would think, but after a performance like this, maybe, this is what is in fantasy owners' heads.
Well, 1/12 of owners will not be drafting him. I only took him this year. So that's one.
See, I disagree, because I took him this year, and I would take him again next year.
Well, most people aren't as jaded as you are.
Ridiculously stupid as me.
No, I mean, most people are more reactive.
Right.
Actually, most people are not you're very reactive.
I am not very reactive at all. Ask
are you still doing
about that.
Are you still doing 0 RB next year? Because you were proclaiming that to be like.
Oh yeah, Gregg
Olson's
a big cog in that, for sure. Now here's why I wanted to get back to McCaffrey and Olson. Former Vikings offensive coordinator Norvell Turner has agreed to terms with Carolina to become the team's new offensive coordinator, according to a source from NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. If he can avoid trying to make Cam Newton into a pocket passer, when that's not really Cam Newton's game is, then this could be a good thing. He's very good for tight ends, Dave, and running backs historically. So the point I bring up,
he's always been a 1 RB player,
Gregg,
1 RB coach.
And what RB are you going to focus on if you are Norv Turner coaching Carolina? Is it going to be the corpse of Jonathan Stewart, or is it going to be the young, youthful, spry, taut, preteen body of Christian McCaffrey?
He's definitely not preteen. I would think that McCaffrey's the guy. But I really want to hear what Turner has to say about him, because he didn't draft him, and he's not the prototypical. He's used to the LT type size guys, like 5'10", 5'11", 220.
Yeah.
Big bruiser types. Not bruisers, but you know what I mean, like the prototypical size of a running back.
Prototypical 3-down.
And that's what he likes, giving him tons of carries, tons of catches. If he can get by with McCaffrey's size, I think McCaffrey's going to go, as you would say, boffo.
Yeah, he is going to go boffo. Is he in the first round conversation? Would you be looking at Christian McCaffrey at the back end of the first round?
I think he was a tad later than that, like early to mid-second. But I think he's...
So you could take him in the second round. You could go against your own strategy.
I would take him in the late first. So.
Oh, you would? Okay. Because that goes with the RVWR strategy.
I guess in that case, I would then, therefore, if I was to take McCaffrey, I would have to take him in the first.
You need to come up with a better name for this strategy. RVWR is that. I want to refer to this throughout the offseason, and I'm not going to be able to if that's the name for it. The river strategy. It doesn't... Actually, river is not bad. Maybe you can call it the river strategy. Gregg Olson, this is going to be good for Norv Turner. And you know what else I found out? Norv Turner's son was hired as the quarterbacks coach for Carolina. This after he already has a brother and a nephew working for the Panthers as well on the coaching staff.
This is great, because what's that term called again?
Nepotism.
Nepotism, thank you. I was trying to think of it earlier, and I've been well aware of it, but just forgot about it. Okay, nepotism. That's pretty crazy.
That is crazy. But this is good for Gregg Olson. This is good for Christian McCaffrey. And it's too bad McCaffrey can't be on any of my teams this year because he is an RB. Kansas City offensive coordinator Matt Nagy has officially been hired as the Bears' new head coach, according to a report from ChicagoBears.com. Nagy was awesome this year. In fact, you could make the case that Kareem Hunt was pulled out of the doldrums when Andy Reid decided to turn play calling over to Nagy. He's the offensive-minded coach that maybe is the Sean McVay to Mitchell Trubisky this year. And we'll see what happens with this. But this is a good hire. This is a hire, Dave, that is forward-thinking, a youthful offensive coordinator that can maybe get the best out of those ragtag bunch of pieces they got in Chicago.
So is there a question?
Well, I mean, your thoughts on Matt Nagy, or don't you have any? Do you think that's maybe a little bit overrated? Do you think Jordan Howard is still a little bit of a reach in the early second next year? Do you think that there is any bounce-back potential with Cameron Meredith with a young, sharp play caller here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's some optimism. Trubisky did not do well, but you saw with Goff that it's possible that he can emerge as something that's reasonably decent. I'm just not a big fan of Howard's game. I don't think he's an elite player. So and then you still have Cohen in the mix.
Right.
And I think Meredith will probably be a value. He'll probably go in like the 10th, 12th rounds, where he was going in the 7th to 8th maybe this past year, and because he got hurt, everyone's going to be forgetting about him. But I think he's still a quality player.
It was a really bad injury. I remember that. Cohen is probably going to be my RB1 in a lot of leagues. Now I think about this, I gotta research this a little bit more.
It's definitely possible.
So yeah, and remember that I will say this about Trubisky. Yeah, he didn't set the world on fire, but John Fox really didn't give him the opportunity to. I mean, what was the one game where he had 6 pass attempts or 7 pass attempts? I mean,
John Fox he's as archaic as like a guy like Norv Turner.
Are you concerned? This is the other question I was going to bring up with Norv Turner. You worried obviously the Panthers aren't, but are you worried at all that maybe the game has actually passed him by a little bit?
Well, he had to go up into the attic to like get it dumped off the playbooks. And he's like, holy crap, I still got hired.
Yeah.
You know, Farrell, this is an example of a really good agent. What Norv Turner did, what his agent did, this is impressive.
Can I tell you a better example?
Go ahead.
John Gruden's agent. 10 years, $100 million. It's insane. It's just absolutely crazy.
It makes me so happy because I don't have to listen to him anymore on network television.
I wonder who they're going to get for Monday Night Football.
They were talking about Moss and some other people.
Randy Moss?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, that'd be great. Get him and Woodson on there.
Not Woodson.
You don't like Charles Woodson? I like the way that Moss and Woodson play off each other. They're good duo. What don't you like about Charles Woodson?
I don't care for his.
You don't care for his analysis?
I don't care for his analysis. Yeah, okay. I like Moss. I prefer Moss.
Okay.
A little bit better.
Your thoughts on Gruden? Does this make a big difference for Amari Cooper, Derek Carr, Michael Crabtree, whatever they do at running back there?
I mean, I don't know. Is he going to get Cooper to play good?
That's the question.
I don't know.
I would think that Gruden is intelligent enough to hey,
this
Amari Cooper guy, we need to get him the football.
That's really good.
That's what he would be saying.
Your Gruden is quite good.
Well,
actually.
Maybe we'll have a special guest appearance by John Gruden on the show.
It's just like they said in Moneyball. If Cooper's a good player, why doesn't he play good?
So, what round would you be comfortable taking Cooper then? With that thought.
Well, since Meyer's listening, the 12th.
Nah,
Meyer, I totally screwed you on that trade, sucker.
Until maybe Amari Cooper's this year's Deandre Hopkins.
He might be actually.
Maybe he's the proven player off a bad year.
This could be one of those trades where it looks good for me until it doesn't, and then it looks good and then it doesn't. They go back and forth, and then eventually I lose. More
good news here as LSU running back Darius Yice announced he's entering the 2018 NFL Draft. This is a report off of Ian Rappaport from NFL Network.
Is he German?
Are we just going to call him Yice? Is this going to be the thing? This going to be the shtick?
Juice. We call him Juice? That sounds more cool.
Because I think that's going to be people are going to start calling that and it won't be cool anymore.
There is Juice.
I like Yice. He's one of the best.
How would you spell Yice? The German version of Yice would be E-I-S-S. So it'd be would it be like Vice?
Wouldn't it start with J?
J-E-I,
Yeah.
It could be. I didn't take German.
Like Jägermeister is Jägermeister?
Yeah. J-E-I-S-S. That's how it's now spelled.
Yice. I think that's an amber. Right. Or is it a lager? I don't know. So he's one
of the Darius Yice the other night. It was pretty tasty.
Yeah,
a lot of hops.
Very hoppy. It's the double IPA. So Yice is one of the best running backs in this class. This is we were talking about this in the chat earlier. It is a deep running back class in 2018. He can run inside. He does a good job at getting through the line of scrimmage. Yice is very quick, can make defenders miss, and we don't know about his pass catching ability since the LSU just does not throw their running backs. 32 catches in 3 seasons. We saw Fournette come out of LSU. He caught the ball pretty well.
Yeah, he did
this past year. So maybe we see.
He looked good in his little private workout.
Yeah,
and he proved that he was a pretty decent pass catcher.
Yice apparently going to be one of the first running backs off the board. Could be a first-round pick, Dave. And as far as dynasty goes, I don't know what you know about him right now. My thoughts are that he is not Leonard Fournette. He plays sort of in the style of Fournette, but he's not. He doesn't have he doesn't bring the physicality to the table that Leonard Fournette did. Still have those ankle issues, that Fournette did. So maybe this is something that we'll see with.
Do they not have tape at LSU?
Apparently
not have tape off the ankle.
It's crazy, but definitely in the first half of the first round for rookie drafts.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are talking about him 1, 2, or not 1, but 2 or 3. In fact, Jack Hahn, who I made a trade with him and ended up with the 102 in one league. He's like, good luck with juice, ice,
with
whatever.
the ice.
The ice.
Yeah.
And,
he could go 102.
Yeah. I don't think he seems decent. We'll just see how it goes. But if he gets again, a lot of it, I'm a big believer in draft position. If he gets drafted highly, then I'm very seriously considering.
Just like Trent Richardson.
Just like Christian McCaffrey.
3rd overall pick in the draft. He couldn't miss.
They don't all work out.
Too big to fail, Trent Richardson.
This is an Enron.
Question from the chat. Waskai says, guys, top 4 rookie running backs. People will be entranced. I will do my best on this because I think I haven't really broken into dynasty mode. First of all, he's asking, where is Love? Bryce Love from Stanford still has yet to declare for the NFL draft. If he does,
he's one of the weird ones. He's probably still taking classes.
Yeah, probably.
What a moron.
He is. I don't want to get into it because we're running short on time. But Bryce Love would be in the top 4 for me for sure. Probably behind Geis. Probably behind Barkley. And I really like Ronald Jones Jr. or Ronald Jones III, whatever he is, from USC. I think he's a very talented running back as well. That will be going in this draft, potentially maybe late first, probably more than likely round 2. But those would be my 4, I guess. I'm trying to think of a 4th guy that is really standing out to me other than those. And I'm sure. Oh, Royce Freeman, I kind of like too, from Oregon, who put up some video game numbers in a spread attack. However, he has the body of an NFL running back. That squat 5'11", 215, 220. Pound guy, so I think he could take the pounding. I kind of like him as well. So those would be my top 4 right now, and I would obviously put in Love over Freeman if he does declare. Your thoughts on the running backs, Dave?
Honestly, I've not gone far enough. I'm not going to BS my way through this one. So whatever.
Last guy also brings up are the Georgia running backs near the top, and I'm not a huge Nick Chubb fan, so I don't know if I would. I guess maybe he's ahead of Freeman.
I like Sony.
Sony Michel is
I like
actually
him a lot.
Yeah, I like him quite a bit too, and I think I might put him ahead of Freeman. But Sony Michel, I think, is really going to be success. Daniel Jeremiah said the same thing.
He looks super explosive.
At Move the State. Oh, he did in the championship game. Wow.
Yeah.
Was he crushing through those Alabama holes? But Daniel Jeremiah says he actually he thinks Michel is going to be a better pro than he was college player. And I don't know.
That's a typical cliche thing to say, but it's probably true.
It's true. Well, I remember he was playing behind Nick Chubb a lot for the last couple of years, and they had that Swift guy who's a true freshman who actually got in the game, or in the games quite a bit for Georgia this year too. So.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to some emails, and I think we're going to stick with Dynasty here, if I remember correctly from the rundown. Hey, hello, Paul and Nick. Any thoughts as to what kind of impact Bo Scarborough will have on Dynasty and FFPC annual leagues next year? Roll Tide, that is Jim in Birmingham, Alabama. Jim, congrats on your Tide winning their 6th title in the past 3 years. Only Alabama could do it, and they did.
So pathetic.
I don't think much of Scarborough. I know he came out early, but I think that's more of a case of Damian Harris is coming back there. Najee Harris, it looked fantastic in the championship game.
He looked really good.
And that guy's 19 years old too. So I think he's realizing okay, these guys are way more talented than me. I'm not going to see the field. I'm going to come out right now while I can. I'm not a huge fan of his. I think I will not be drafting him anywhere in redraft next year. And in Dynasty, maybe a 3rd-round pick. I'm not super excited about him. I was never really super excited about him watching him in college. I just never viewed him as a very special player. He's got the size, I guess, for an NFL running back. I'm not super excited about Bo Scarborough, Dave. I don't know if you have any thoughts to add on that.
I will be doing my research as it comes along.
Pending from Dave. Okay, moving on to Glenn in Douglas, Wyoming. Hey, Balky and Dave. I saw your tweet this week about Ridley given the age comps to Benjamin. Should I be worried about drafting him in my rookie draft at 104? That is Glenn in Douglas, Wyoming. Calvin Ridley, Dave, announced he is going to be coming into the NFL draft this year. A guy who is an early entrant to the draft, as he is only a junior at Alabama. A 23-year-old junior. He was a 19-year-old college senior, 19 years and 9 months, Dave. There is a rule, and I can't remember where he played. I want to say Florida or something like that.
He's from Coconut Creek, Florida.
Yeah, there's a rule there that you can play high school football when you're 19, but there's a cutoff. It's 19 years, 8 months or something like that. He could actually only play in 4 games his quote-unquote senior year of high school, and then he was ineligible. Okay? Which is interesting.
Kind of interesting, the whole educational... And I put that in quotes, system in Florida / Alabama.
Yeah.
In the South.
Okay. I'm going to bring it back to fantasy here.
They ain't too bright down there.
Fellow Alabama receiver Amari Cooper, Dave.
Oh, yeah.
Just finished his 3rd year in the NFL.
Younger?
He is 6 months older than Calvin Ridley. 6 months older
That's funny.
than Calvin Ridley. Everybody's fawning all over. He's the number 1 receiver in the draft. He's such a polished guy. He's a can't-miss guy. He's going to go into maybe the top 10. I mean, and he was a 5-star recruit. Isn't there something to be said that he was a 5-star recruit because he was 2 years older than everybody else? Isn't there something to be said that he's so polished and everything because he's 23 years old? I mean, there's a certain maturity that comes with being a pro football player. And I got to tell you, nobody's talking about this age thing. It has me.
What do you mean no one's talking about it?
I don't hear anybody on Twitter. Well,
you ever heard of the Phenom score at RotoViz?
We're going to find out what these guys come out at.
So it's probably like negative 0.65.
And then the Calvin Ridley hate will come in, but I am not touching him in the top 4 of a rookie draft.
He'll be in the same range as the Kelvin Benjamin, where he sucks because he's a 23-year-old rookie.
Yeah.
He maxed out in college.
Yeah.
So he looked good in college going against other 19 and 20-year-olds.
His best year was his true freshman year, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, and
with
then
Ridley?
with Ridley, and he got.
That's actually a better thing, to be honest with you.
That he got worse.
Well, no,
not necessarily didn't go worse, but just the offense was so running dominant.
But I mean, the fact if he had a really solid, like if he had a really good share of the offense as a freshman and a younger-ish player, that's somewhat positive. But yeah, coming out of 23, plus it shortens your career a bit too. But I'm not interested in these overaged rookies, not at all.
Yeah.
I like it, like the Juju Smith-Schuster, 20 years old, and look at him. He had a great, fantastic year.
Yep.
And now he has a great NFL career ahead of him, probably.
Calvin Ridley, I'm just looking at this. He had 89 catches for 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns his freshman year. 72 catches for only 760 yards, still with 7 touchdowns his sophomore year. His junior year, 63 grabs, 967 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So that is where you're at with Ridley.
He needs more touchdowns.
I am very nervous about him. Ridley, here's the quote from the chat room tonight. Two-packer, Ridley, no. Did I say no? I meant no. I think he's average. I don't see the separation or aggressiveness. So there you go. I'll tell you what, his younger brother, who is also old for his age, who was playing in the championship game on the other sideline, and now I'm forgetting what his name was. Ridley's brother.
Mr. Ridley.
Yeah, I can't remember his brother. It's irritating. He actually looked really good for Georgia, maybe better than Calvin. Definitely put up better numbers than Calvin did.
Hey, quick quiz for you.
Yeah.
What was Sigourney Weaver's name in Alien? Ridley!
No, wasn't it Ripley?
Oh, whatever.
I think.
Same crap.
All right, moving on. John in Atlanta, Georgia, are y'all taking Le'Veon Bell's retirement threat seriously? Thanks for the email, John. Are we, Dave? Are you?
Of course not.
I'm not either.
That's like saying that Kim Jong-un's going to be dropping a bomb.
All right, I don't want to get into that. But you have Le'Veon Bell talking about maybe he's going to retire if he doesn't get the numbers. Maybe he'll sit out.
Oh,
is this
sure
the time? Hold on. Is this the time to put out feelers in Dynasty? See if you can grab him?
I mean, if the owner of Bell is stupid, sure.
He is a 26-year-old running back with a lot of tread on the tires.
I mean, come on.
I'm just saying.
He's had some injury issues, first of all. He came out in the NFL when he was like 20, 21. I think he was
super young. Yep.
He's still he could play for 2 more years and he'd still be traded as in this prime type player.
Okay. All right. So you would be interested in buying him right now for 95 cents on the dollar, 90 cents on the dollar?
Yeah, 90 cents, whatever that dollar is.
So as long as you get like a notable discount, he's a guy that you'd be in on. I thought about floating some. I can't remember who owns him in Carrington. I think it's you.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, and I thought about floating some offers out there, but I'm like, I don't know. Like,
what do you mean, Mike Evans in a first-round pick? Forget it.
Well, the thing is, like, I think what it would take, it was the same thing, like, talking about trying to acquire other stud running backs. It would gut my roster, to try to acquire somebody like that. It's not, to me, it's not worth it. You know?
I mean, again, I don't understand why they just don't figure. They should be able to figure something out. Pay this guy and get it taken care of.
And this is the point you were making earlier. And you think they will. Now, Big Ben could retire. And
that's a big negative.
And this goes to the whole, remember what the Denver Broncos are going through?
Big Ben's not retiring this. He's not going to retire.
You don't think he will?
Not this year, no.
Okay, because I own him in Carrington, too.
Good. I mean, I'm just saying.
He's my only quarterback.
Usually you get, it seems like there's more signs and so on that, you know what I mean? And he didn't get all that dinged up this year.
What if they win the Super Bowl this year?
They're not going to. So don't worry.
He's got all the answers.
Don't worry about that.
The Dizzle knows.
I mean,
Dizzle Damas
I guess
tonight on the show.
Technically, if they win the Super Bowl, he could go up. But I mean, what do you guys are make like $16 million a year next year? Probably,
it's, you know, when it comes down to it, it's just like, can you really turn down that type of money?
No, you know, the only people who make more than him is Kirk Cousins, because he keeps signing one-year deals for $35 million. What a genius! He's a smart fellow.
He really is. Although he said he won't do it this year.
I thought he said he would do it.
Oh, I thought he said he wouldn't. Here's the thing: if I was in this situation, like, how much money do you think Le'Veon Bell's made in his career? Ballpark it.
Like $20 million.
$20 million.
Probably not enough. Not as much as he. This contract. This is his contract.
$20 million is a hell of a lot of money. Okay, hell of a lot.
Taxes.
If I had
real estate deals.
You got to pay off your agent and your manager, your PR people, your lawyer,
your weed guy,
your cover-up guy, your fall guy.
Hangers on.
Yeah, hangers on. So that money can go quickly. So the thing is, like, maybe $20 million is not. I mean, you talk, like, when it comes down to it, dude. If he's
how much do you think he has in his bank account right now?
The franchise tag for him next year is $14.5 million.
300,000.
I don't know. $14.5 million.
Yeah.
So if he's made like $20 million in his career, he can almost make whatever he made in his career in 1 year.
Yeah.
And you're telling me he's going to turn that down?
He's not turning.
I don't think he's going to turn.
He's going to sign. I mean, his age. You know, I know running backs are a lot more injury prone, but I mean, why not sign the 1 year deal and get like $20 million worth of insurance through like what?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. It's just like what alternative does he have?
Right.
I mean, sitting out, you don't get paid. In fact, I think that resets your clock, doesn't it? If you sit out for the year.
I think if you have to play, it's something about the 10 games.
Yeah. Then he'll report, and just so he gets the.
Yeah, I mean, why make it contentious? I mean, you know, these people. He wants to play football. He plays football, so he does for a living. The Steelers, what they do is they put out an entertainment product that people like to watch, and they have a good player that they could pay, and they have a huge salary cap. How the hell hard is this?
Yeah.
I mean, these cap people. I mean, get your shit together. Sorry.
The Steelers, I think, like, have long been an organization that really runs their team, quote unquote, the right way. And they don't irresponsibly spend. Not that this would be irresponsibly spending.
There's so much cap money nowadays. It's just crazy.
I just realized I violated my own rule about bringing up these potential holdouts and stuff because they never, you know, until they're actually holding out and it's costing games.
It's all fake.
So I shouldn't have brought it up. The thing is, we don't normally hear about this stuff in early January. You know, normally this is like a spring or summer discussion. Final email tonight. Hello, Antonio and Odell. Who you guys taking as your first receiver off the board next season? Enjoying the PC right now in the top 100. Congrats to you, Jerry in Chicago, Illinois. And thank you for the email. We have been, at least I've been talking to high-stakes players about this. It seems to me that the popular name is still Antonio Brown, despite the fact that, well, I mean, despite the rumors that Big Ben could retire, despite this, you know, calf injury, despite, you know, the emergence of Juju Smith-Schuster, despite his age. I mean, I think he turns 30 at some point next season. So for you, if you're violating your river strategy, Dave, and you're going receiver in the first round,
river
if it was a verb strategy, as it were, would you be taking Antonio Brown if you're going receiver? Would you be taking him first over everybody else right now?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really think of anyone else to take.
Odell Beckham?
No, he's coming off an injury and he's too flaky.
Okay. Julio Jones?
You know what's funny is you didn't even ask me to expound upon that because you know why? I didn't need to.
Yeah, you really didn't need to.
No, Julio doesn't catch touchdowns in the end zone. That was weird. I saw him actually. He caught one the other day. It was weird. It was like getting a 4-leaf clover.
What about talking about proven players coming off bad years? What about Mike Evans?
Yeah, I mean, he's a person you could consider drafting, but first, I mean, that's a pretty big leap.
This is what we're trying to flesh out.
Where do you finish? Like receiver 27?
I don't know. It had to be bad, but I'm looking it up right now. What about Deandre Hopkins?
Hopkins is kind of someone who would be in consideration, but you know, assuming that Hopkins is a consideration. Hopkins is probably the closest one. He'd be my number 2 right now, probably. Okay,
and for whatever it's worth, Mike Evans finishes wide receiver 17 this past year. You know who the number 3 receiver was? Let's see if you can figure this out, and we'll close out the show on this. The number 3 receiver last year, Dave, was not drafted in the first 2 rounds. He might have not even been drafted. I think he was drafted in the 3rd, in the 4th in some formats.
5th?
Fitz was number 5.
Yeah, dang it.
Yeah, good guess on Fitz, though. This guy was a first-round pick in 2016. Yeah, he was a first-round pick or early second. A lot of people had high hopes for him. A target monster. Got a ton of targets in his offense. Went down with a really, really bad injury.
When? This year?
Early in the 2016 season, and that killed his value. And he got drafted in like the 3rd, 4th round. And then he finished as the wide receiver 3 this past year. Plays in the AFC. He's got a potential Hall of Fame.
AJ Green? No.
No.
Oh, you said Hall of Fame, so that must not be.
Yeah, potential Hall of Fame, like borderline Hall of Fame quarterback throwing to him.
Chris Hogan?
Who's aging. No. This team did.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's very funny. This team did not make the playoffs. They were close to making the playoffs. There you go. Keenan Allen was the number 3.
Took way too long.
And I'll just leave it at this. The number 4, I don't think you would get. The number 4 receiver last year.
Thielen.
No, he wasn't Thielen. Thielen finishes 8. The number 4 receiver last year, I think, led the NFL in receptions. I think Fitz was the only guy close to him. He led the NFL in receptions this past year.
Okay.
He is a PPR guy. He is not a touchdown guy, and he doesn't get a ton of yardage. He is the definite Jarvis Landry, wide receiver 4.
Yeah, Landry,
pretty interesting stuff.
I really wish I had drafted Landry. It wouldn't have mattered. My teams are still terrible.
Yeah, the only guy you would consider taking number 1 would be DeAndre Hopkins, Dave, who actually finished as the wide receiver 1 last year, 1.5 ahead of Antonio Brown. But keep in mind, while neither of them played Week 17, Brown did not play in Week 16.
Right, but I'm looking at this now. I just pulled it up. Okay. He's the only other player at wide receiver that averaged 20 points per game.
Yep.
Everyone else was like 3 to 4 points below that number. And then he scored pretty well even after Watson went out. But with Watson back, it's going to help.
I can't even tell when did Watson get hurt. I'm just looking at Hopkins' numbers.
Yeah,
was it Week 6?
That's what's nice, right? I don't think it was. I don't know. He did well without him.
Yeah, he did very well. He did very, very well. You look at Hopkins' numbers, and that's the thing. You look at Hopkins' week-by-week numbers here, you can't tell when Deshaun Watson went down.
Watson had a 39.8 week 8, and then did not play in Week 9.
Okay, and then here's Week 9 on for Hopkins. 20, 18, 17, 19, 16, 38, 18, 17. You know what I mean?
It's amazing consistency, really. His worst game.
With no one throwing to him, his worst game is 16.
His worst game is 16. That's amazing.
That's really crazy.
I think Hopkins.
And you're taking a dump all over him and taking Antonio Brown.
I like him a lot. I said it was close.
Yeah, and you're still taking Brown. You're saying when it comes, you know what? It's like the Packers GM. You slam the door in Elliott Wolf's face and say, "Get out of here. We're going with Gutekunst."
Yeah, you know what? I didn't hear your answers there, jackass.
Probably Brown. But Hopkins, I'm taking him in the first round.
Okay, trade question. Hopkins or Elliott?
In Dynasty?
Yeah.
I'd rather have Hopkins.
Dang it, I dealt him for Elliott.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Well,
mid-season.
But it depends on your team need too.
I could use both.
Well, if you could use both, I probably would have rather kept the receiver.
Yeah. All right, that's fine.
But
it's pretty close. They're both pretty elite.
It's not worth implementing an embargo over. I'll tell you that.
It's a good point. Plus, I don't think that Elliott currently has a girlfriend. So that's
that is good.
So that's
yeah.
positive.
All right. Yeah, and on that positive note, that is going to do it for the show this week, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Gregg Zwickel. I want to thank the Dizzle, the FM. Just looking at the chat here on the show, and I was reading it backwards, and Wash Guy, by the way, thank you, Wash Guy. He says, "Great show, guys," but then I read up, and then it said, "Dave Gerzak agreed." Like, yeah, it really was a good show, Wasp Guy. I was
agreeing to a prior comment.
I know, but I read it backwards. See, I have dyslexia when it comes to internet podcast chat rooms.
Yeah, that's funny.
Kind of. What are you doing for the games this weekend?
I don't know why.
We're going to figure it out, man. It's going to be a great weekend.
Do something.
All right.